And I know now one of the things you do is you teach yoga beats or work with kids who are in gangs in Glasgow.
Yeah.
So how does that work?
Well, when I came out of a war, I came to England, and I made I said, I looked at this guy and said, is there anybody up there, please get me out of this, And of course I got out of this. And I made the promise that I would not do anything but teach yoga, that I would actually not be a dilettante.
Okay, so, yeah.
It was my devotion.
Yeah.
So since '95, I've only taught yoga. I've lived, and it's been tough at times, but it's always been my greatest joy. It's my passion, and I taught the way I felt. It's my truth. I came out with this type of yoga, and I want to teach this. And I was a heretic in the world of yoga. I was the bad boy of yoga for years, and traditional yogis would not come to my classes, so they would. I had them blocking my classes. It got
upset the yoga establishment, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, there was a statement.
Time is running fast.
Sure.
I know you've got a lot to say,
Sure.
but I'm just trying to. I'm really interested in what you actually do with the kids in Glasgow and the gangs.
It started, I suppose, because we have an overt war in Bosnia. When you come to the West, there's a covert war. Everyone's in war.
Yeah.
Division.
Yeah.
So it's the same paradigm for me. When I work with kids in Brixton, for instance, who are on crack cocaine, they're 11, 12, and they're into prostitution, they're carrying guns, knives, they're going to grow up to be very dangerous individuals. They come into the class, when they come in, they're full of all the street, it's survival mode.
Yeah.
My role is to take them quickly and change, this transformation. How that is worked is several techniques, but the first one is the one which affects the body chemistry itself. And I use a series of bandhas that are fun to do. They look ridiculous.
So what's a bandha?
Bandha is a constraint. So, for instance, there's a thing called Uddiyana Bandha, where you let the breath out of the lungs and pull the belly in.
With the breathing, basically.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And when you squash the inner organs, you cleanse them. When they release, new blood comes in at the cellular level, and you feel different. There's an actual change of feelings. When you change someone's feelings, you're on the road. So that begins.
Kids who are on crack, 11 years old, are into doing this?
Absolutely.
I find that extraordinary.
They want to get high.
So that's a good point. So they want to get high, and this is a cheap way to get high. You can do yourself anytime. Yeah.
So I can get them feeling high, and I challenge them with it.
You must be a great salesman to go in and say, "I can get you high, cheap, anytime you want." Anytime you want to do it on your own.
And I think that the tattoos help and all of that, and I play the fool. And I couldn't care less. I don't care what they think about me. My intentionality creates the reality that we end up with.
Yeah.
That my intention is that by the time they leave, they go, wow. And so it starts with they want to murder me. I mean, they're psychotic. They're hugging.
You're brave to go into these situations because it must be threatening.
But it's happened so many times, repeatedly, that now I know that it's an illusion. The threat is always an illusion. It's not real. It's just, or it's a result of the way they can't help but be like that. You can't blame anybody for... Look, the hardware of a human being, I absolutely know, is kindness, generosity, equanimity, all of that. It's a software. We get programmed.
Okay.
So it's just changing the software.
I understand completely, yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So once you get past
that
level...
So goodness is there, intelligence is there,
Always.
Balance is there, and you're helping them to access that, and they've got, over the top of it, they've got all kind of programs which are, at the very least, unhelpful, and the worst case is very destructive.
Sure.
Yeah.
And we can marginalise those people. We can point a finger and say, oh, these knife gangs, they're terrible, they're awful, they're all... But, when you get down to close to it, they're just the same underneath. It's just circumstances, environments creating that. So I create an environment of joy, of hilarity, and within that environment, they feel safe.
Yeah.
Without, naming it.
Yeah. And for you, that's unbelievably rewarding, I would think, as well.
It's beautiful. It's my biggest reward. I do most of it self-funded.
Yeah.
So when I go to the Palestinians and work with the bad boys in Jenin, I earn the money in Israel, then I go in with that money and I fund what I do. And the journalist says, well, why do you do it? I said, well, why do you think I do it? So he said, well, I have no idea. You must be mad. I said, well, maybe I am, but let me tell you why social workers do things. Because we get a payoff inside. Nobody gives me that payoff but me.
Yeah.
I feel wonderful. Ask any social worker why they change somebody's, grown-up nappy in bed in the middle of the night where nobody sees them. Because they get a payoff. It's an internal one.
Yeah.
So that's the payoff.
Yeah.
And it's a self-propelling situation.
So I know you've worked with Israeli women and also Palestinian women, and even brought them together.
Yes.
Which must be quite an experience.
That was one of the highlights of my entire life. It was in 2006, and I was teaching at a large, the big Israeli convention, a teachers' convention. And one senior teacher, there was an Indian ambassador to Israel who was there, and he stood and he made a little speech, and she stood up, this senior teacher, and started saying, well, it's a shame our neighbors can't be here, and their culture doesn't allow them to the practice of yoga because of the rigidity, and the men's got to teach men and women have got to teach women if it can take place at all. And it was extraordinarily patronizing. And I put my hand up and said, excuse me, can I say something, please? And so, David Side from Yoga Beats, clap, clap, clap. I said, I've just come back from Jericho, and I taught 18 Palestinian women in front of the mosque on the lawn while the imam is calling the faithful for prayer. Yeah. I had Egyptian breakbeats on the boogie box, and they were rolling back with their legs up in the air, screaming, laughing. Yeah. I said, I thought I'd be shish kebab, but there was no problem. Yeah. I said, the problem is with you. And then I turned around and I said, do you realize the responsibility we have as yoga teachers? Do you realize? And I let it go quiet at that point. And I was pointing it at her because I was actually righteously angry with her. Yeah. I said, we can actually cause or create a change for a human being. And how long does a human being remember that? Yeah. As opposed to a political vote? And what do? Do we leave this world to politics? Look what that's done so far. My vision in my lifetime is that yoga is seen as a transformational tool, not just a middle-class indulgence.